Hi everyone, your local hipster here to talk to you about the latest Craven Faults album, Erratics and Unconformities. Craven Faults is the name of a progressive electronic project from the UK, debuting in 2017 with their EP Netherfield Works, and then dropping 3 EPs in 2019, all of 3 of them I failed to even notice. Either way, I am happy that I stumbled across this album just by chance, because I was trying to fill my schedule open before the entirety of Friday happened. There are so many projects that came out Friday, and I just don't know if I'm going to cover all of them. But before that happened, I went into this project really unaware of what it had in store. Genre descriptors like progressive electronic, ambient, drone, Berlin school all got me intrigued. And at first it might be a little off-putting that there are only 6 tracks on this album, but it spans a total of 72 minutes. However, I would argue that Craven Faults is making you intrigued throughout this entire runtime. Starting this album off with the track VACCA Wall, I'm not too sure how to pronounce that, which is 17 minutes long. However, I don't think a moment of this is uninteresting or boring. It keeps the runtime justified and it's engaging from start to finish. You get these synth notes that sound like organized piano smashing. The tone of this synth is constantly changing throughout this track. After a while, the ambience behind these synths are more prominent. Then there's a soft kick that's introduced in this track. The further you go in this track, the more layers there are of production, reaching this apex and then slowly fading out. Then we get the second track on this thing, which I can't pronounce to save my life, DEIPKIER. Either way, this is one of the shorter cuts on this album. This track offers a nice, subtle change of pace as there are synth notes on this track. However, they're not so bright. However, 2 minutes in, they start to become a little more in your face, but still maintaining that sound that is considered ambient. There are also these very nice synthetic strings or horns in the background that really complement this instrumental and this production so nicely. And I could say this about most of the songs on here, the analog synthesizer work on this thing is really good, like pristine. Similar to the first track, this reaches a great apex and then it fizzles its way out. What's with these song titles? Then you get the third track on this album, which follows the formula of the last 2 tracks, introduces these synthesizers very steadily, very pacefully. These analog synths are actually more spaced out compared to the previous 2. They have a very eerie, looming tone to them as well. There's also a little bit of drum work done in the background of this song, and it really adds another layer to this track as a whole. I would even say the drums on this track in particular are more prominent than any other song on this album. Again, rise, apex, steadily fade out. A tried and true formula that I was wondering would change on the next track. And it certainly does. However, that is not the reason why I am not the biggest fan of the 4th track on this album. Slack Slay and Temple is the name of this cut, which in my opinion is the weakest song on here, and the longest as well at 18 minutes. Acting as the centerpiece on this album, however, it's not as engaging as the previous tracks. Throughout this entire runtime, you get a 1-note synth that is just constantly repeating itself, steadily increasing and decreasing in tone, sometimes having a kind of glitchy, almost down-tune effect. This is the closest thing to demonic. I say that very lightly. However, throughout this entire track, I just don't find myself as engaged as I was previously. Things do pick up after this song with the next track, Hanging Stones, which is this nice ambient cut with some very beautiful synth work. And while it's too spacious for my liking, I still find it an enjoyable cut. However, the ambient track that stands out amongst the rest on this album is the last track, Signal Post, which in a sense is the closest thing to a dark ambient track we get. These very low, almost bass notes are perpetuated throughout this entire song, and I would say that the climax of this track is a little more interesting than some of the others. There are more intricacies here and there, however, I think the beauty of this album is just enjoying it for yourself. I'm not going to say this album is going to be for everyone. Rather, I would tell you to listen to the second track on this thing, then the final track, and if you like them both, listen to this entire album as a whole. I think these two songs in particular showcase what this entire album is really doing. And honestly, I am, again, happy that I stumbled across this album. While it's not the most inventive or mind-expanding album in the genre, it is certainly one that's really enjoyable. Quiet, subtle, ambience that really is also engaging, very tuneful, one of the most finest pieces of electronic music that I've heard in a while. Very proper in a sense. Like, I feel like if this album was personified in a person, it would wear a suit and tie and have a monocle. Kind of a weird way to describe this, however, it's a really enjoyable album with incredible subtleties that can't be explained thoroughly. You just have to listen to this to fully get it. So a B+ is what I give this album, and I'm curious to know, are you going to listen to this thing? And if you have, what are your thoughts on this album? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below. And remember, this is only my opinion because music is subjective.